The emergency room reeked of panic. Monitors beeped furiously, doctors shouted orders, and nurses rushed with trays of equipment. On the gurney lay Rebecca Stanton, CEO of Stanton Global, a powerhouse in the corporate world, a woman whose face had graced magazine covers and who was known for being both feared and admired. But now, none of that mattered. Her lips were pale, her body trembling from a rare infection that had devoured her strength in a matter of hours. The doctors had tried everything: antibiotics, antivirals, experimental treatments. Nothing worked. Her blood had developed a mutation, rejecting every donor sample that came through. "Her body's shutting down," whispered one nurse. Rebecca's eyes fluttered open briefly. She was only 42, but in that moment, she looked decades older. Her wealth, her empire, her carefully constructed world, none of it could stop the ticking clock. Her board of directors crowded the hospital lobby, not out of love, but out of fear. A dying CEO meant crashing stocks, ruined deals, and shattered reputations. None of them cared for her life, only what her absence meant to their fortunes. But fate had a strange way of stepping in. Outside, in the same hospital lobby, Daniel Hayes sat hunched over, his calloused hands gripping a styrofoam cup of stale coffee. He was a single dad, a veteran who had served 3 tours overseas. His body carried scars, visible and invisible, but his heart carried a weight heavier than any battlefield. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was upstairs in the pediatric ward, recovering from pneumonia. Daniel had sold nearly everything to cover her treatment: his truck, his medals, even his late wife's jewelry. The hospital bills kept stacking, and he kept working double shifts as a mechanic, barely making it through. He wasn't thinking about CEOs, corporations, or dying billionaires. He was thinking about Lily's smile, the way she clutched her stuffed rabbit whenever she was afraid, and how he couldn't fail her, not after everything they'd already lost. Back in the ICU, the doctors hit a dead end. "Her body is rejecting every known donor," Patel muttered. "She needs a blood type with a rare protein strain. Without it, she won't last the night." A hush fell over the room. Rebecca, drifting in and out of consciousness, whispered hoarsely, "Don't give up." The staff exchanged helpless glances. Saving her seemed impossible, until an idea surfaced. Unorthodox, desperate. "What if we expand the donor search to anyone in the hospital?" A young resident suggested. "Family members of patients, visitors, maybe even someone waiting in the lobby." "It's a long shot, but..." They had nothing left to lose. A hospital staffer rushed to the lobby, holding a clipboard. "We need blood donors, urgently," she shouted. "A patient's life depends on it. Anyone willing, please step forward." People hesitated. Some looked away, some muttered excuses. Daniel, exhausted, stared into his coffee. He thought of Lily. He thought of the times strangers had helped him. A meal given freely, a ride offered when his car broke down. Without overthinking, he stood. "I'll do it," he said simply. Minutes later, they ran his blood. The results came back, and the room erupted. "It's a match, Drive," Patel gasped. "Not just compatible. The protein strain is nearly identical to what we need. It's a miracle." Daniel didn't understand the medical jargon, but he understood the urgency. They prepped him immediately, inserting a line to transfer his blood. Rebecca, unconscious now, was pale as snow. Her breathing was shallow, her body moments away from surrender. As Daniel's blood began to flow into her veins, the monitors flickered. Beeps steadied. Color slowly returned to her cheeks. The room filled with awe. "It's working," whispered a nurse. Daniel felt a strange connection as he watched the life drain from him into her. He thought of his time on the battlefield, watching brothers fall, fighting to keep them alive. This wasn't so different, only this time, he wasn't saving a fellow soldier. He was saving a stranger. Hours passed. By dawn, the crisis was over. Rebecca stabilized. The infection had been neutralized, her body accepting Daniel's blood in a way no other donors had. The hospital staff called it a medical anomaly. Daniel didn't care about science or miracles. All he cared about was going upstairs, holding Lily's hand, and telling her everything would be okay. When Rebecca finally opened her eyes, Sunlight streamed through the blinds. She blinked, dazed. A doctor leaned over her. "You're lucky to be alive, Ms. Stanton," he said softly. "You owe your life to a man named Daniel Hayes." Rebecca frowned weakly. "Who?" "He's a veteran. Single father. He gave his blood to save you. Without him, you wouldn't be here." For the first time in decades, Rebecca Stanton felt something foreign: gratitude. A week later, against her doctor's protests, Rebecca insisted on meeting him. She walked slowly, still weak, into the pediatric ward. There she saw him, sitting on the edge of a small hospital bed, reading a picture book to his daughter. Lily's laughter rang out like bells. Rebecca froze. The man who had saved her wasn't polished or powerful. His shirt was faded, his boots worn, his eyes tired but kind. His daughter looked at him as if he were the strongest man in the world. Daniel looked up and noticed her. He stood awkwardly, unsure what to say. "You must be Rebecca," he said simply. "And you're Daniel," she replied, her voice catching. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to," he shrugged. "I just did what anyone would." Rebecca shook her head. "No, not anyone. Everyone else turned away. But you gave me life. And you didn't even know me." Daniel glanced at Lily, then back at Rebecca. "Maybe that's the point. You don't need to know someone to save them." Rebecca visited often after that. At first, it was just to express her gratitude, but soon it became more. She brought small gifts for Lily, sat by her bedside, listened to Daniel's stories about his military service, his late wife, his struggles as a single dad. Something shifted inside Rebecca. She had built her life on walls of money, power, and control. But here, in this small hospital room, she discovered something far more valuable: humanity. She watched the way Daniel gently brushed Lily's hair, how his entire world revolved around his daughter. She saw strength not in wealth, but in sacrifice. And Daniel, in turn, saw something he hadn't expected in Rebecca. Beneath the steel armor of the CEO was a woman who had known loneliness, who had fought battles of her own. Her empire was vast, but her heart had been empty. The weeks turned into months. Rebecca recovered fully, but she couldn't forget the man whose blood now flowed in her veins. She invited Daniel to Stanton Global, offering him a job in security. He refused at first, too proud to take charity. But she didn't stop. She invested in Lily's medical care, ensuring the little girl never lacked treatment again. She sat with them during difficult nights, laughed with them during good ones. Slowly, a bond formed, fragile at first, then unbreakable. One evening, months later, Rebecca stood outside Daniel's modest home. Lily was asleep inside, curled up with her stuffed rabbit. Daniel leaned against the porch railing, the twilight casting shadows across his face. "You've changed me," Rebecca admitted, quietly. Daniel looked at her, surprised. "Me? Yes. I thought I had everything: money, power, success. But I didn't know what it meant to live until your blood saved me. Until you showed me what love, sacrifice, and family really are." Daniel swallowed hard, his chest tightening. He had built his life on survival, never expecting more. But now, standing with her, he felt something he hadn't in years: hope. Rebecca reached out, her hand trembling, and took his. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't the CEO. She wasn't the untouchable figurehead of a billion-dollar empire. She was simply a woman whose life had been saved, not just by his blood, but by his heart. And Daniel, the weary soldier, the single father who thought his best days were behind him, realized that perhaps life was giving him a second chance too.